Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be ranking all of the Transformers Legacy Evolution Core Class Dinobots from favorite to least. I will also be reviewing the Legacy Evolution Core Class Dinobot Combiner Volcanicus towards the end of the video. Let me know your ranking of all 6 Core Class Dinobots in the comment section down below. I hope you enjoy this video. Now let's get into it. Starting off with my favorite of the Core Class Dinobots, here we have the Transformers Legacy Evolution Core Class Dinobot Swoop. This comes as no surprise to me that Swoop is my favorite Core Class because he has always had my favorite deco and design. Starting in Swoop's robot mode, I like all the glossy red and silver with the really nice gold paint apps at the pterodactyl head at the chest, as well as some really cool mechanical detailing across the entire figure. One of my major complaints in the robot mode is that there is this huge exposed hinge at the chest, which doesn't look very good. As for accessories, Swoop comes with 2 identical black blasters which can be stored on the wings or the hands. As for articulation, Swoop is very posable for a Core Class. Transformation is very straightforward and fun, and the pterodactyl mode looks pretty cool with the gold paint apps for the head and the silver on the sides of the all mode. I don't like the wings of the pterodactyl mode though because they're made of this unfinished white plastic which looks very cheap. Swoop transforms into one of the arms of the Volcanicus combined mode, and the blasters form the hand. Now let's move on to the next Core Class Dinobot. Now for my second favorite Core Class Dinobot, here we have the Transformers Legacy Evolution Core Class Snarl. Starting in the robot mode, Snarl's deco and design has very nice glossy black and red paint apps with really cool spikes scattered across the entire figure. As for accessories, Snarl comes with one small sword which can be held in the figure's hand or stored on his back. As for articulation, Snarl is more posable than some of the previous Core Class Dinobots. One of my biggest complaints about the figure is that it could use more paint apps. Transformation into the Stegosaurus mode is very straightforward and fun, but does require some parts forming, which really doesn't bother me. Snarl's dinosaur mode has really nice mechanical detailing and gold spikes going down the back of the dinosaur, and the small sword can be stored underneath and on top of the alt mode. As for Snarl's combined mode, probably my least favorite part of the Volcanicus combiner, I don't like how there's this huge slab of red at the front of the leg. It seems out of place and makes the leg stick out like a sore thumb. Also, the sword can be stored at the front of the leg but never really wants to say. Let's now move on to the next Core Class Dinobot. Now for my third favorite Core Class Dinobot, here we have the Transformers Legacy Evolution Core Class Dinobot Grimlock. Starting in his robot mode, Grimlock has nice glossy black and red with gold paint apps as well. Accessories, Grimlock comes with a double barrel blaster which can be stored in the figure's hand and forms part of the tail in the all mode. Articulation could be better because the arms are pretty stock and an elbow bend would have been nice. Transformation is fun and straightforward. Grimlock's all mode has some nice gold and silver paint apps with some nice sharp claws for the feet. My one major complaint is that the T-Rex tail is way too big compared to the rest of the alt mode. Grimlock transforms into one of the legs of the Volcanicus commander with a really cool T-Rex head at the front. Let's now move on to the next Core Class Dinobot. Now for my fourth favorite Core Class Dinobot, here we have the Transformers Legacy Evolution Core Class Dinobot Slag. Slag's deco is made up of a nice gold, silver, and gray paint apps, and several spikes scattered across the figure. Slag includes a blaster which can be stored in the figure's hand, and forms the tail in the all mode and part of the head and chest in the combined mode. Articulation is overall pretty good, but an elbow joint would have been nice, and the proportions for the figure could have been better. Slag's transformation is fun, straightforward, and simple. As for Slag's Triceratops, the all mode has really nice gear detailing on the legs with some nice gold and silver paint apps as well. Also, the alt mode has some slight movement in the legs and head. Slag transforms into the chest and head for the Dinobot combiner Volcanicus, which is surprising because most of us were expecting Grimlock to be the center of the combiner. Let's now move on to the next Core Class Dinobot. Now for my fifth favorite of the Core Class Dinobots, here we have the Transformers Legacy Evolution Core Class Dinobot Scar. Starting in Scar's robot mode, Scar has a really cool silver spikes at the front of the legs with more gold paint apps across the figure, but I do think the arms are pretty bare and should have some more details. Articulation is pretty good for a Core Class, but the arms are pretty limited. As for accessories, Scar comes with a simple black blaster which can be held in the figure's hand and forms the tail for the alt mode and the hand for the combiner arm. Transformation is very fun and simple. Scar transforms into an ankylosaurus that has really cool silver spikes going down its back and an interesting bird-like head done in gold. Scar transforms into one of the arms for the Dinobot combiner Volcanicus. Let's now move on to the next Core Class Dinobot. Now for my least favorite of all the Core Class Dinobots, here we have the Transformers Legacy Evolution Core Class Dinobot Sludge. Starting in Sludge's robot mode, I like all the glossy black and silver deco, but my two major complaints for the robot mode are that the figure comes with no accessory and the figure has a lot of leg kibble. As for articulation, Sludge is the least posable of all the Core Class Dinobots with very little arm and leg movement due to all the kibble in the way. Transformation is very fun and simple and a good choice for a fiddle figure. Sludge's Brontosaurus mode has nice nut and bolt details with gold and silver paint apps and some nice mechanical details as well. Unfortunately, Sludge's alt mode is stock with little to no movement. Sludge forms the waist of the Volcanicus combiner, so even though this isn't the best figure, it's still an important part to complete the combiner. Let's now take a look at the Dinobot combiner Volcanicus. So now that the ranking portion of this video is over, let's get into the review portion where I take a look at the details, give my thoughts on the Dinobot combiner Volcanicus. So starting at the very top with that head sculpt, I do love the gold for the entire crown or crest section with some really nice glossy black for the entire helmet section and some red for the visor, looking very scary and menacing. And I do love the really cool kind of bird beak or heads kind of sticking out of the shoulders there for Scar and Swoop. And I do love the gold and the blue paint apps on the eyes and the actual head. And if we do look at the side or kind of the outer section of the arm for Swoop, I do leave the glossy black for the entire hand with some really nice red striping and silver there. And we do have the wings, which there is a bit of customization and kind of transformation involved with this combiner. You can probably tweak and kind of modify a few things if you prefer things, you know, looking a certain way or a different way that Hasbro chose to do them. Like you probably could fold out the wings, make them, you know, a bit longer, expand them more if you want to. According to Hasbro, yes, they do have them folded up, but if you want them, of course, fully spread out, you can if you want to. I do like the wings and their placement, but I'm not a big fan of the kind of unfinished whitish gray plastic. It would have looked much better with kind of a silver or gunmetal gray, like maybe some gold. There would have been a nice touch. And of course, taking a look at Scar's arm, I do like the silver and the gold paint apps there with the really cool spikes. We actually do have the little kind of alt mode legs there, which I think is pretty cool. And if we do look at that chest, I do love the huge Triceratops head there done in gold with a very classic eye, but symbol done in red with the really cool kind of horns or spikes. And some blue for the eyes with some more silver for the entire kind of stomach or ab region with some more black for the crotch and the top of the legs and some gray as well. Now for the legs, this kind of gets into one of my major complaints or problems with this combined form, that being Snarl. Now overall, his alt mode and his robot mode I think is actually really good. If you did miss any part of the ranking, he's actually kind of second in line. I think Swoop is my favorite. He's just behind Swoop. He's a really good figure, but really where it falls short is the combined mode. I think you're probably guessing already what I'm about to say. A lot of people have said this as well. I've seen other people's reviews and ranking videos as well, and a lot of people have a problem with his combined mode leg is because there's a lot of red and it really just kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. They just chose not to match Snarl with the rest of the colors and the deco for the other figures. And of course, this really isn't just for Volcanicus. You know, in the other modes, he does look, you know, different. He does stand out with his red colors. You know, you can see a few red highlights here and there, you know, but not as much as that. And, you know, if they chose to have more red paint apps and details on the rest of the combiner, I wouldn't mind as much, but that's not the case. So it does kind of stick out like a sore thumb how much red, how much is in that area. It's just kind of a big slab of red, and I do like the spikes and the gold details, so that's nice and all, but I just can't get over it. It just seems a bit weird to me. Hopefully, maybe I actually had a really good idea. Hopefully, Hasbro could kind of do what they did with the Stunticons with these Dinobots, is maybe they could pack them all into a pack of 6, you know, all 6 core classes, and add some pin apps, and maybe once they do that, it would look a bit better, a bit more normal, because all of them had more details, maybe more red, and it wouldn't stand out as much. But taking a look at the other leg, we actually do have Grimlock here, which I still find a bit odd to this day, because, you know, when we first heard the rumor of getting core classes in the, you know, Dinobots in the core class scale and them combining, we of course obviously thought Grimlock was going to be the center. He was going to be the main part, you know, the head and chest, but that is not the case. That's actually Slag or Slug, depending on how you say it. He actually forms one of the legs, which is a bit odd to me, but I do love the T-Rex head kind of poking out of the knee there and the cool kind of nails or claws at the foot there. And we actually do have the little dino arms sticking out as well. And if we do look at that side profile, overall not looking too bad. You do have to keep in mind this is 6 separate figures. You know, this isn't like set you by that. Of course, they focus on all, 3 modes: the robot, the alt mode, and the combined form. You bought all of these separately, so the combined mode is kind of a bonus. They probably didn't spend that much time and attention. I think probably their main focus was the individual releases and their robot and alt modes, so there probably will be, a few sacrifices, a few problems. Also, they are core classes, not like full-size figures like the Stunticons, where they're, deluxes and commander class size figures. But if we do look at the back, overall, I'm pretty well put away. There's actually the head of Sludge there in his alt mode, which is kind of funny, that just kind of tucks back there. You could actually have that hinged up if you want to, or hinged down, entirely up to you. You probably have already noticed. Unfortunately, I really don't know why. I don't think it's the surface, maybe just the figure itself, but it does tend to wobble a tad bit. Not really sure why. It's probably just kind of unlevel, because of course there's just so many, moving and involving pieces, like 6 separate figures combined into one. So it will be a bit messy, a bit kind of wobbly at times, but that's how the back looks. So as for proportions, and tolerances, I would say overall good tolerance-wise. You probably will see in a little bit when I show off the articulation, but unfortunately the arms do have a tendency to kind of pop off, because it's just kind of a, typical kind of mech to port connection. There is a post on the individual, arm or the individual figure, and it just attaches to a port on a Sludge and a Slag there, so it's not the most secure connection. The legs typically do want to stay, but whenever I actually kind of try and pose the figure around or the combiner around, they usually want to pop off, which is unfortunate. So I'm going to try, when I show up the articulation, for that to not happen. Proportions for most of the combiner are good. I do have a problem with the arms. You probably have already seen this. It seems a bit weird to have, Scar really chunky, big and bulky arm, but, Swoop is very slender. He's always been, very slender, kind of sleek, which that's always how he's been, which is fine, but, side by side like that, it seems a bit odd. So maybe they should have chosen a bit more of a bulky one to be that other arm, like Grimlock could have formed this one, and maybe Swoop could have like attached onto the back, or maybe he could have formed to one of the other legs or something like that, because as it is, it seems a bit goofy. But and that's really all my problems proportion-wise. And tolerances are pretty good. Again, just kind of the connections of the arms could be a tad bit better. But as for articulation, I'm going to try and go slow, because as I mentioned, some things can kind of pop off and move. So the head, of course, can move side to side. It cannot look up or down. As for the arms, of course, they can move forward and back, and of course out to the side and in. There is a bicep rotation. There is an elbow bend, but of course, due to how everything's kind of locked into place, he has those weird kind of gorilla arms where the elbows kind of bend in. You technically, if you wanted to kind of untransform the combiner, where you like move the robot mode arms and actually swivel the arm forward, and then of course you could actually finally use that elbow bend. Do keep in mind, if you do that, the hand of course will be lopsided. It will be kind of on its side, sideways, and there is no wrist rotation. So there is kind of a pick your poison kind of situation, where if you do that, of course, another problem will kind of prevent itself, or present itself. So a bit unfortunate with the arms and its articulation and moves, or posability. But if we do move the arms out of the way, he actually does have a waist rotation, which is pretty surprising to see how much, is attached and going on. But it can rotate the full 360. Also, the legs can kick forward and back and out to the side. So there is a knee bend, but I actually would advise holding this section here on Grimlock, because if you don't, that will happen. So you do have to hold this top section here and then bend it back, and then it will be fine. But if you don't want to, just of course use a Snarl, because his section or his pieces don't really kind of untab or move. But that is pretty much it for articulation. Let me just quickly straighten up the figure, and then we can get into a few comparisons. Not really specific comparisons. I kind of just wanted to compare Volcanicus, to the typical Deluxe and Voyager, just to show you the size and the scale of this figure, just to see and show you how big it is, because, we've never really had a core class combiner before. So let's get into it. So here he is with the Buzzroo, the Bumblebee Auto Trooper. And the Volcanicus is actually taller than a Deluxe, and you do have to keep in mind, if you don't know, this is using the Siege Deluxe class Ironhide mold, and he's a pretty big figure for a Deluxe. He's almost approaching Voyager size, so it's actually a pretty decently sized combiner for it being, only core classes. But that is it for that comparison. For one final one, here he is with Nacelle, which is a Voyager class, and I would say they are roughly about the same size. And that is it for comparisons. Now, that is pretty much it for the review portion of this video. I really do hope you enjoy this ranking / review. Let me know think of this combiner in the comment section down below. What would you like to see next in this core class scale for combiners? Maybe Predaking, maybe the Stunticons, Bruticus? Let me know in the comments. And again, of course, let me know your ranking of all 6 core class Dinobots in the comment section down below. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time.